This is Trevor Payne for Taint Taint Taint, interviewing Maritess Zurbano about her work that she's been working on about being a woman magician. And I found it interesting when you referenced this 1530 work on the discovery of witchcraft, and I looked it up, and there was this quote about it. Spiritual manifestations were willful imposters or illusions due to mental disturbance in the observers, written by a guy who wanted to protect women from being persecuted as witches. And he wanted to put the blame on the people who are susceptible to their arts, if you will, that they were just, disturbed themselves, the person, taking it in rather than the person doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered what you had to say about how you see people like Donald Trump using that same type of technique to influence people and take advantage of their predisposition to be disturbed in that same way, to be manipulated by illusions and magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the magic show is over for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I mean, when the audience starts storming the stage, it's kind of over.
Yeah.
And the lights go on, and the management says, "Party's over, show's over." But it took a very long time.
Yeah, it got too real. What do you make of the way he perpetrated it with his performance art as a magician? Do you see anything that he did that that you could observe, how you could describe how he was able to pull it off for so long before it got just too real at the end there?
Well, to be quite honest with you, he's charming. I mean, I've met him. I used to live in New York, and he's tall. He's got a big, bright smile, and he's entertaining as all get out. He's your hilarious racist uncle. But now, that kind of talk is very 1999 or 2017.
Yeah,
we don't talk about that anymore. There's no such thing as an entertaining racist uncle anymore. So this is a different time.
So when you perform magic, do you use your charisma in the same kind of way to get people into your persona as a way to create the effect that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, it's all showbiz, including with literary marketing, whatever. If you have charisma, of course it'll go over well.
Yeah. So there's an intersection here between this aspect of Donald Trump and the white privilege idea. That it's hard to get away with those kind of things in this culture. If you're not a white male, it's harder if you're a woman of color, right? So I know that another one of your interests in the world of magic is to, as I've heard you say, decolonize magic. What do you mean by that?
Well, even the notion of having an amusing white racist uncle, right? And speaking like that as an endearing term, that's just all about buying into the fantasy, to the magic of white supremacy and racism, right?
Yeah.
So that goes way back, with Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. Is it racist? Yes, it's very racist. That's all about Wagner, which we're not going to get into with his Nazi little fantasies. But all of this has all of our belief systems in the Western world today, when we talk about magic, we're all about white supremacy. Santa Claus, Harry Potter. There is no mostly white English school of magic where only it's the haves and it's the have-nots. everybody's magic.
Yeah, so it's almost like a trope that describes how people maintain power. And in these fictional worlds you've described, they happen to be white hegemonies, white dominant, power structures. And the way magic works there is to give power to that constituency, or that those kind of people, at least optically. Is that fair?
It's all based on mythology and gods. Like if you go to the Capitol building, Nancy Pelosi has a really nice exterior to her office. Never been in there. Yeah. Although I guess if I was a white supremacist, I would have been in there with my horns. And I'd half the outfit.
Yeah. I know, you see the horns and that massive tattoo.
What a douchebag that guy was. Anyway.
I like how he displayed his nipple with that tattoo, which is really isolated on that one.
I swear to God, that's more mythology, right? That's more romance of like people create these stories in their heads. Like maybe that dude was thinking about like Norse mythology or like something more, I think like it's become our country is so corporatized and we're under this oligarchy.
Yeah.
It's just too much for people. I think people are cracking.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's so hard because everything is so, like you're saying, it's so mythological now. It's hard to isolate what reality is. Truth has been so destabilized.
Right.
Right. And I think these people, you see them there, like I think they felt like there was nothing wrong with what they were doing. Because they created an illusion for themselves that this was just something they were allowed to participate in.
Right. And a lot of them have some very precise military training, I've noticed.
Yeah, I know.
And they've seen, all these movies, all of our consumptions, all these movies of war, thanks to the U.S. government funding Hollywood.
Yeah,
that's another interview altogether. But it's this romance of using all your secret skills.
Right.
Your secret military skills.
Yeah.
These bozos had on like all their military gear from the thrift store. I mean, the what is it? The surplus.
Army surplus. Yeah.
You saw that? Like,
with all the body armor and
body armor. What the fuck? Yes.
I know. They wanted to be that character.
That's right.
It was like a reenactment.
That's right.
And it was almost like they were participating in it, and on some levels, many of them on that level, I think they took videos of themselves, right, and wanted to send it to friends, and they weren't aware of consequences. They just wanted to be that character so badly.
They want to be in the appendix of the new Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like Chad over here was the guy that wore some horns in Nancy Pelosi's office in the way appendix of the Lord of the Rings 6. But no, they're so desperate to become part of the narrative. They don't have any kind of voice. So
right, that's the thing. I would say my crackpot theory on this is that
bring it, Trevor.
Why white people, right? Because they think they're entitled to be the top category in that magic world, and they're not, and then they feel like something's been taken from them.
Yeah.
And so they get activated to try to take something from the power structure that they think that belongs to them.
Right. Yeah, they want to defend the white king. They want to
right. And then he will favor them. He will anoint them, and they will have extra power because of that. Yeah.
That's right.
This sort of associates with and in your view, the optics that are used in magic and media are just one of those things that helps to support that sense that these people have internalized so deeply.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so the minute you try to incorporate yourself into that magic narrative as a person of color, right? So let's look at like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or anything like that. When you get like a black person in there and Harry Potter and that sea of white faces, what happens? Everybody's wondering like, how the fuck did that kid get in there?
Right. Yeah.
Like, what's
Yeah.
that story? You
Yeah.
know? Then you have to create an entire story, and that's not how this works, people.
Yeah.
This is not how magic works. This is a white supremacist construct, right? Because magic belongs to everybody. Magic belongs to women. It started in Africa, by the way.
Yeah.
The first magic trick that was ever recorded was on papyrus in Egypt. It was
Oh, wow.
the old cups and balls. That's from Africa, people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so for all these like dorky white guys in these magic shops doing like card tricks and like, you know, that's from Africa.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and then so now if you look back in magic history and you see Black people participating, or any person of color, it's I mean there are many not many, but a few profound Black magicians out there still working today even, but like in our white supremacist culture, they're always being challenged.
Yeah, and you look at like it's tokenism, or they're a villain, like those kind of tropes get used a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, what am I doing there? You know, they're like, oh, cute lady must be
Yeah.
my assistant. You know,
Yeah.
they don't understand like where I fit in. Like, am I the mail order bride of the magician? You know.
So like in reality then, like you've done magic professionally and performed shows for how long now?
Let's just say since I was 22.
22. So yeah, so yeah, it's your adult life has been defined by this ability to perform in front of audiences, and
Yeah.
so you've had to deal with a tremendous amount of sexism and tremendous amount of like white privilege type things in reality too, that probably sensitized you to seeing this in media.
Well, Trevor, I used to be a supporter of white supremacy just by being in magic, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
I
see.
really idolized all these white magician guys like on TV and history. And in history, there's a deep yellow face tradition in magic where, and you've seen this in Hollywood, where all your favorite old white guys would dress up like Charlie Chan, or,
Yeah.
you know, even David Carradine in that Kung Fu series, you know,
Right.
or Scarlett Johansson as the Asian lead.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So that's problematic, you know, when these people that hold positions of power in beauty, in you know, acting talent, in the whole world of Hollywood or magic or whatever kind of power structure you want, banking, whatever, you know, law, they're all these white old men who have certain belief systems, and so everybody believes, oh, I have to like get on that train if I'm going to be a successful person. So that's why you saw some Black and Latino mob people at the Capitol the other day, because they have friends who are white. I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
suppose, I don't know.
And you know, when you're outside of the power structure, you know, you can internalize, you know, some of that racist thought yourself, right? And
right.
Yeah, and you know, we're all susceptible to this really to our core, right? So you know, people of color have to, I think, work really hard to not internalize some of that stuff that's sort of self-hatred, right? Like that can be, yeah, because you receive these messages so often through media, like in the ways you're talking about, subconsciously, right? And you can't help but be influenced by those.
Sure, yeah. And let's not even talk about like you know, gender, but that's a whole other thing. Like, if you're a gay male, you're still on a higher level than like a female. You know, it's like misogyny, and it's really weird. So
because you came into the magic world at a time where there were very few female magicians working professionally.
yeah, and Yeah, I'm still kind of like parsing through this because you know, there are many successful female magicians before me. And the goal of magic is to, I mean, the structure that I've been witnessing for the past like 30 years is they try to tamp down the existence of female magicians, the history of it anyway. Like they just claim, oh, there's none. Well, no, there's plenty.
Yeah.
Just that they're not being put in the covers of these magic magazines or given um, equal, uh, you know, credibility as like an amateur magician, for example.
Right.
You know, so
So it's
yeah,
that whole twice as good phenomenon kind of thing that Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about in Between the World and Me. Like you have to be twice as good as a man to be
like,
noticed.
that's the polite version. The other version that's really popular right now is white male mediocrity, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what magic is. Like
Right.
a lot of it is like self-working magic tricks, and like the bumbling magician is kind of this expectation, like, oh, of course he's a terrible magician. And that's the expectation. Like, oh, you know, even though Donald Trump is like this bumbling idiot,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Right.
It's not okay.
No, I know. Yeah, he can get away with it, and because that's classic white privilege, right?
Yeah.
You it's amazing how far average white men can get just by being dealt in, right? By being given the position, and once you have the position, that's 90% of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Having access to the roles, that we're talking of, using that kind of idea that we're assigned roles, and just if you're given a role of power, it's easy to be average and get that role if you're of privilege, versus somebody who's not within that structure. Then you have to be unbelievably talented to get there.
Right.
Yeah. So that's part of your experience. Do you still do magic professionally, or are you pivoting away from that?
Oh no. There's a saying in the inside of like pyramids of Egypt. It's if you get in a ladder and you look it up, it's on the ceiling, and when it's translated, it's when the check clears, the magician appears.
Okay.
Very
Yeah.
rare,
Yeah.
rare saying. No.
Yeah.
Of course, I still do magic, Trevor. Yes, I do it on
Yeah.
Zoom. I do. I do this on Zoom. I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack to what I said about like gender in magic, like because traditionally magic's been very like cis white male oriented, you know, and so you would think that like if you were like a gay male, like you know, or a transgender male, or whatever, like that would automatically put you to like, you know, relegate you to the world of people of color and women. But you know, no, as long as you're a white male, it's all good.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very white male thing. So yeah, I have to. It's it's so much because I've dedicated my entire life to magic.
Yeah.
So only recently have I realized, as Malcolm X said, I've been, what did he say? I've been had, I've been took,
Yeah.
I've been hoodwinked, misled, bamboozled.
Yeah.
So that's what's happened to me. So
Yeah.
I'm still
And it
working
wears
out, brother. I'm
wears
still
on you
working
over
out.
time. Yeah. To have to continually, scrape and claw to get your position, which you deserve from your experience, right? Like
Right.
yeah. So this new mission for you is to take advantage of all that equity in your experience, and almost become a little bit more of an advocate to try to push back on those aspects of this culture and subculture of magic, to create an awareness of what is still true regarding these.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna take a very long time to to get people to believe in the explanation of the magic. Like when people are told that their favorite priest has been like diddling little boys for decades, like they have a very hard time believing that, right?
Yeah, these mythologies, like the older I get, the more I agree with what you're saying, is that we participate in these mythologies more than we know, and they become our reality more than we know. And I think that's what's been made very, very clear lately, is just how susceptible we are to that. And it can be a good thing, right, to have a beautiful mythology if it's fair and if it's nice and nourishing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's malignant and horrible and devastating to individuals, and gives power to one group and not another, then it can be just a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very careful with our mythologies and be aware of how we use them and how we participate in them. I think that's something I myself know much more than I used to.
Yeah, and it's people like us who have the privilege of sitting around the house like musing about mythology, like
right.
that I think that the average person in America that's watching a lot of TV and they get fed the mythologies, they're not really thinking about these things,
No.
So
they don't. I don't even think they know to think about these things often. And then there's this anti-intellectualism in the culture too, where it just seems so fussy, fussy intellectualization, and like just almost like smarty pants stuff that they want to ignore. I don't know how else to take it on, but to think about it on these levels, though, it's so difficult to counter, the culture that's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people of color have a long history of the only way of being given a platform is through entertainment.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to use the theme of magic in my work when I'm talking about very difficult topics like white supremacy and misogyny, all that stuff people don't want to talk about. But when you have like a magic trick with it, like that's what they want to see. That's what they want to see is the waka waka waka. So that's why Donald Trump gets away with what he does, is because like he makes jokes, right?
Yeah.
He taunts people like it's a big stand-up set.
Yeah, and optically, like people can look at him and say, I can identify with that. I can, it's just so hard to like if you're white, you're predisposed to want to, have white supremacy be your part of your belief system in some way or shape or form. Like he fits the bill.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people of color that are Trump supporters too. And they just want to be a part of the crowd.
Yeah, right. Have access.
And the price of the ticket is very low. Like the price of the ticket is you saying, yeah, and then wearing a hat. That's the price, and then you get power, right?
Right. Yeah, you at least you perceive it, right? You perceive the power. You can feel good about that for a moment or two.
Yeah, it's all temporary, right? It's like getting a massage, right? Like, oh, it feels really good at the time. Is it gonna last forever? No. But they think it's gonna last forever.
So when you perform, do you have a commentary about this in your shows? Is that something you incorporate within the performance itself, or is it something that's
I tried that with one of my gigs. Didn't work out so well. I had to write that apology email pretty soon.
Oh no.
So I keep my artistic endeavors separate from my corporate.
Yeah.
Because mama's gotta make a living,
Right.
Like I gotta make a living. So I'm part of the corporate. I'm just trying to chug along here,
It's kind of like if you go to the tire store, you don't want to lecture on religion. You just want you want tires for your car.
Yeah, I might sit there and tell them about like how recently in the New York Times they determined that a component of tires was responsible for the reduction in calcification of barnacles in the Pacific Northwest shores. No one wants to hear that. Just buy the tires. Like, just figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know the answer, Trevor. It's just so hard.
Well, one last line of thought here, which I would love to talk to you about, is like when I read some of your work, I was taken with how you had this really complicated thing of managing a white mentor, as a woman of color making her way in the magic world.
Yes.
But you had to both value him and get something out of him, as well as maintain yourself and learn how to do that. That's quite a journey. Can you speak to that?
You know what? I used to, my magic mentor side, I used to really like Donald Trump, like back in when did he write that book, The Art of the Deal?
Yeah, oh yeah, 80s, yeah.
Yeah, 80s. I remember like really admiring him because he looked at a homeless person. He said, "Oh, that person has more money than I do." Found out that was a ghostwriter. That's not really him. Okay.
I know.
But I was taken in. So with my magic mentor, he legit had some very special skills and was really cool. You can kind of compare that to like maybe if you got to hang out with Frank Sinatra and like they were like an actual relic of the 50s, but all throughout the day he would drop a few N-words and like,
oh geez,
talk about like the size of women's tatas and like, so yeah, I really liked having access to the world of white male supremacy. I really liked that because I wanted to understand like Sinatra and Vegas and the mafia and like the magic backstage world of men. It was very cool and glamorous, but and I put up a lot of bull poppy, to be a part of that world. So it's just really embarrassing for me. So I thought, I'll write a book about it.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. It opened my eyes because I didn't really think about it. Like, it's very warm under the wing of a dragon, right? Like that's where it's comfortable there for a while. And so removing yourself from that, how did you, like, that must have been do you have any moment where you became aware that you had to get away from it, at least intellectually and emotionally, and frame it differently?
I remember, and this is an excerpt from my forthcoming book, but that I'm working on. But so my mentor died in 2018, and so he was doing home hospice, right, in his magic library that was worth millions of dollars.
Oh wow!
And so we're sitting there, and I'm like, I don't clean, like because people expect that of me. Like, no, I'm not gonna clean your house.
Hard pass on that.
yeah. But I was like in deep grief, so I'm like, I'm just gonna dust all the crap in here because like I have nothing better to do, right? And so I'm dusting, and then I find this bust of a white Cleopatra with blue eyes and blonde hair, and something in me clicked. I'm like, oh, Jesus, what am I doing here? Yeah. This is the hall of white supremacy. And I look on that wall, and it's only portraits of white male magicians, dead white male magicians, like Thurston, Blackstone, Houdini, of course, and and he's always had a room relegated to the back for female magicians. And I was like, oh, it must be a place of honor. It's not. It's in the back. It's a different room. It's not part of the main room. It's segregated.
It's almost like the fetish room.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's just been embarrassing for me because he would like show me porno and like porno video, and like we've gone to see like magic shows that like were like in a strip club. And
Oh, geez, yeah.
not, I mean, not to disparage my sex worker friends, but you know, like, but to see it with this old white guy,
Yeah.
and you know, like, I was in my early 20s, Trevor.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Right.
but
It's hard to learn these things.
I thought that I was a white man. I was given the status of being a white man because I was given the privilege of like, check out that girl's tatas, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, no. So I am just embarrassed. I'll get out. So,
but it's interesting though how long it takes us to understand these truths, right? Like how prevalent those forces are that can convince us that we need to do these things to, and we get that feedback loop, right, where we get enough out of it to, it just delays that ability to see it clearly. I've had this experience myself in my own way, so I really get that. So it was fairly recent where you were able to fully kind of get your head around the abuse of all of that and take steps to remove yourself from it, at least emotionally, intellectually.
yeah, and all these white male magician friends I thought I had, like, I found out like in the end, like none of them care about me. Like they still saw me as like a potential mail order bride. Like on my mentor's deathbed, he said like, he's talking to all these magicians about like, you know, oh, it'll be fine, carry out the thing. And then he looks at me and he's like, hey Mari, get in here with me naked. I'm like, oh my God.
It's just a power play. You know.
On his deathbed, like I was his best friend for like about 30 years. And in the very end, he was watching Fox News, and you know, when you lose all your faculties, I guess what's left is like your most primal instincts, which is like, oh, brown girl,
Yeah.
Not the respect, you know.
Yeah, you go back to those formative experiences, right? After you've forgotten all that, yeah. So that makes sense. Like,
yeah, he's telling people, oh, Maritess is like my best student. You know, you show her sleight of hand magic, she just does it. You know, like I've competed in the World Championship of Magic. I lecture and perform around the world.
Yeah.
Like all these, I have a gigantic resume. But if a hobbyist white male magician walks in the room, like a hobbyist, someone that does like a dentist that does this on the weekends, you know,
yeah,
like they will give him more respect.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's interesting. You know, so I think that this is true. I know that many professional women I know have similar experiences in other fields. I think your experience as a magician is very informative and interesting because it's just something unusual to contemplate. I don't think most people are used to thinking about that world and how that emphasizes what is true in society writ large. That's a really interesting approach to this this topic from your own personal point of view. I look forward to reading that.
Oh, me too. I finished this thing. It's almost done. So.
Yeah, I know it's so hard. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, Maritess, and we'll look forward to seeing more of your work in various forms.
Oh yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Taint Taint Taint. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Great, thanks.